It's new bike day today. I just got this box in the mail and I drove directly to the trailhead with it so we can build it up and give it its first proper ride. Now, the most important thing when you get a new bike or when you're even switching between bikes is getting adjusted to the different bike geometry and suspension and everything. So I have 5 different drills that I do in the parking lot that kind of help me adjust to the bike and get ready for the ride. And I'm going to show you all of that as soon as we put this bike together. So what's in this box? It's a Marin Rift Zone 2. A lot of people have been asking for full suspension tutorials on the channel, some 29er tutorials, and this bike does both of those things. It's a 29er full suspension bike, and I can't wait to put this thing together. My buddies at Marin didn't even bother putting pedals in because they knew I was going to put deity pedals on this bike. So now that we have this bike completely built up, there are 5 parking lot drills that I like to do before every ride to make sure that I'm comfortable with the front and back wheel balance points on the bike. The first drill is the front wheel unweight. That's when we move our weight away from the handlebars to the back of the bike to lift up the front wheel off the ground. I want to make sure that I'm getting back far enough on the bike so that the front wheel actually does come up. The next drill I'm going to do is the back wheel unweight, and to do that I have to put my body weight forward on the bike. And what I'm looking for here is to see how far forward on the bike I need to go to make it easy to get this back wheel off the ground. The third parking lot drill I'm going to do, I'm going to grab my front brake and do a giant endo. And the purpose for that is to see how I can move around on the bike and how steep I can get the bike. This is going to give me additional confidence when I'm riding down really steep terrain. I'm going to know how far back I can get on the bike and how I can manipulate it, how steep I can ride the bike comfortably. The fourth drill I'm going to do is the track stand, and that's where I'm going to find out where my body's balance point meets up with the bike's balance point. I'm going to get a feel for that front and back movement of the bike. I'm going to work on the rollback a little bit, and you know, this is also sort of a convenient thing to do while you're waiting for your homies to show up at the trail too. Just practice that bike balance skill. The fifth and final, and maybe most important drill that I'm going to do before I go out riding is the wheelbase drill. On this drill, what you do is you roll along slow and you lift up your front wheel off the ground and you coast on your back wheel until it gets past where you lifted up your front wheel. You want to go an entire wheelbase on the back wheel. The reason why this is so important is this is the same technique that we'll use on drops. So I want to have the confidence that I can hold my front wheel in the air long enough to clear that drop. These drills might feel kind of familiar because they were the same ones that were in the 30-day challenge that we just completed. If you missed out on that, go back and have a quick look at it. But if you get these 5 locked in, this is a great warm-up to any mountain bike ride. I'm going to take you along for a ride right now, and then when we get back to this trailhead, we're going to do 5 more skills that are going to be a little bit more advanced, and these are things that we can be practicing at the end of each ride to continue becoming better mountain bikers. So we're at a spot called Sandy Ridge, which is the perfect place to test out this bike. There's a lot of super fun downhill stuff. You just have to do a bit of pedaling to get up to the top. I've been in that warehouse for a while on a 26-inch dirt jumper, so this is quite a bit different than what I've been doing lately, but a welcome change. You know, the other part about climbing uphill like this is that it's almost the perfect angle to practice wheelies. This is actually one of the first times I've filmed a proper mountain bike ride. Not that I haven't been riding bikes this whole time, but actually being outside and not in the warehouse or just doing sort of basic stuff, and it's kind of fun. I think we're going to do a lot more of this in the coming year, and I'm pretty fired up, and this bike is probably going to play a big part of that. So if there's stuff that you want to learn, I'll do my best to incorporate it into these rides. Almost there, I think. We're at the top of the trailhead and I'm just getting ready to drop in here. A few things I got to do first. Got to switch our bike into party mode, open up the suspension so we can have some real fun out here. I've never actually ridden this trail on 29-inch wheels, so there's a few things that I want to pay attention to that I think are going to be some better, some a little bit different. So first things first, I think actually because I've got the bigger wheel size here, this bike is probably going to be a lot more fun on more of the technical, rocky, rooty terrain that I'm about to encounter. I also think these wheels are going to be pretty helpful for climbing because that's basically why people ride 29-inch wheels to begin with. Things I think might be a little bit more difficult is turning. When it comes to the bigger wheel size, I have to make a much bigger turn when it comes to these switchbacks that are coming up, and I'm only used to riding this trail on 27.5, so that's going to be an adjustment I'm going to need to make. The next thing is this is definitely the biggest bike and the longest bike that I've ridden at these trails, so getting used to the wheelbase on some of this technical terrain that I'm familiar with is going to take a bit more adjusting to. And the fifth thing I'm going to be thinking about is that wheelbase drill I practiced in the parking lot. I'm going to be doing some drops, and because this bike is so long, I'm going to have to really hold up that front wheel so I can clear drops the way that I intend to.
So I'm glad I practiced the wheelbase stuff in the parking lot so I have roughly an idea of what this is going to be like. Well, I guess it's time to drop in.
Today is January 1st, and while riding my mountain bike isn't necessarily a New Year's Day tradition for me, there is one thing that I do every year to start things off on the right foot. I read this book called The War of Art by Steven Pressfield. It's a proper kick in the butt to get motivated for the year ahead, and I usually recommend it to anyone who wants to make the most out of their time. It's a relatively short but powerful book. You can definitely rip through it cover to cover in about an hour or two. It talks about this concept of the resistance. The resistance is basically anything that slows us down or gets in the way of our goals in life. The book is broken up into 3 different parts. The first part of the book sort of defines the resistance in a bunch of different ways. The second part talks about how to fight back against the resistance. And the third section is about what's waiting for you when you get past the resistance. I've been reading this book every year for the last 3 or 4 years and a few other times when necessary, and I feel like it's really helped me a ton. I honestly couldn't recommend it more, no matter what your goals for this year are. I'll put a link in the description of this video if you want to check it out for yourself.
We're at the halfway mark. There's a little part where you kind of pop out on the trail, and this bike is riding so well. I know I'm probably the last person in the world to get a set of 29-inch wheels on their bike, but wow, you can really tell the difference on this. Just since I started riding this trail years and years ago on a 27.5, man, technology has come such a long way. It's crazy to see what you can do on one of these bikes. That trail is super fun. Now I want to show you 5 post-ride skills that I practiced in the parking lot before I pack everything up.
So those skills that I would start with is just ride super slow in a straight line and see how slow you can actually go before you have to put your foot down. The next thing I would work on is that front wheel movement left to right using the pendulum drill. After that, I would start by doing clocks. So go in a full 360, lifting your front wheel around in a circle. The 4th one I would do is clocks, but with my back wheel around in a 360. And the 5th thing I would practice is rocking, putting that front and back wheel lift together to rock in place. Those 5 skills are great to work on, and they just set you up for more bike control for your next ride.